Honorable President of Armenia, His Excellency Vahagan Khachaturian. Honorable Prime Minister of Armenia, His Excellency Nikol Pashinyan. Honorable President of the National Assembly, His Excellency Alen Simonyan. Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of Armenia, His Excellency Ararat Mirzoyan. Esteemed ministers, parliamentarians, ambassadors, colleagues, and friends, welcome to the inaugural edition of the Yerevan Dialogue. It is a true honor to stand before you today to introduce what promises to be a groundbreaking event, a platform that, in its inception, offers diversity as a key attribute of the dialogues it incubates. This year, I am delighted to welcome our beloved overseas guests from 61 countries. Our panel discussions will witness voices from 42 countries. And most importantly, 40% of our panelists this year are women. It's a good start. And on behalf of the organizers, I can confirm that we seek parity in the year ahead. We are gathered here in Yerevan, a city steeped in history and rich in culture, but more importantly, a city that is emerging as a beacon of dialogue and innovation. Armenia stands at a crossroads, much like many other parts of the world, facing profound changes and challenges. But in this time of uncertainty, we also see tremendous opportunities that we hope to seize through the conversations that will take place over the next 2 days. In Armenia, there's a saying, "The guest is a gift from God." It is in this spirit that we welcome you all. For those of you who are visiting Armenia for the first time, welcome. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. We hope you will feel the mystical energy that flows from our ancient monasteries and the majestic presence of Mount Ararat, which has stood as a symbol of resilience and hope for centuries. May you be inspired by the warmth of our people and the depth of our traditions. This dialogue, though held in Armenia, is for the world. It brings the world's debates to our doorstep, and we are privileged to have you all here to share your insights and wisdom. Over the next 2 days, as we explore the emerging international order, the future of connectivity, green transitions, digital societies, and the future of work, let us remember that the solutions we seek will shape not only this country or this region, but the entire globe. Before we dive into these crucial discussions, I would like to acknowledge the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia and their partners from India, the Observer Research Foundation. Their tireless efforts over the past months have brought together this incredibly impressive lineup of thinkers, speakers, and contributors. We are indeed delighted and extremely honored that this effort is recognized by the presence of His Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. Prime Minister, your leadership of one of the largest transformations in modern Armenian history has been remarkable. You have steered this nation through a rapidly changing political landscape, and your presence here today epitomizes the significance of this dialogue. Your being here means a lot to the organizers and confirms to them that their efforts are well appreciated and contribute to your own vision, Your Excellency. Without further ado, I invite you, Honorable Prime Minister, to deliver your opening remarks.
Honorable guests, I will speak Armenian, so please take earphones. Հայաստանի Հանրապետության մեծարգո նախագահ,
Honorable President of the Republic of Armenia,
հարգելի ներկաներ,
dear
ողջունում եմ
guests, I
Երևան
welcome you to the Yerevan dialogue,
եւ հիմնումը։
and I commend the launch and the founding of this conference. Obviously, Yerevan dialogue is an important platform for discussing questions of the international and regional agenda, to share thoughts, to propose ideas. And I wish to immediately address the question that is perhaps of greatest interest to this audience. Is durable and lasting peace in the South Caucasus region possible? Is it realistic? This, of course, is a question to be answered by not only the Republic of Armenia. I will try to answer our share of the question, and I will answer it from the standpoint of the Republic of Armenia. Thus, durable peace in the South Caucasus is not only possible, but also realistic. Let me now present a few key points to substantiate our position and justify why I think so. And we also need to find how to change this. First, of course, I need to turn firstly to the negotiations on a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You've recently heard much that 50% of the peace agreement has been agreed upon. There have been statements about it at different fora, and in practice, let me tell you what that means. In the current draft of the peace agreement, with the current results, the draft's preamble and 13 articles have been fully agreed upon, and 3 further articles, which each consist of about 2 sentences, are partly agreed. And to be more specific, one of the sentences of these 2 articles is agreed, the other sentence is not agreed. The Republic of Armenia, taking into account that the agreed articles of the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan actually contain the internationally accepted core provisions for establishing relations, we propose to take what is currently agreed, to sign it, to have a fundamental document, and then to continue discussions of the other questions, especially because in one of the agreed articles of the peace agreement, the article stipulates a mechanism that enables both sides, the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, through a joint mechanism to continue the negotiations. Let alone that the currently agreed part of the peace agreement obviously contains a provision on establishing diplomatic relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and therefore we can opt for these solutions. We propose this publicly, and I want to reiterate my willingness, our willingness to sign in the nearest possible time frame the agreed text of the peace agreement. The next important topic is, of course, the process of delimitation between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, and we have had considerable progress here, as manifested in the fact that the relevant commissions of Armenia and Azerbaijan recently signed the regulation on the joint activities of the delimitation commissions. The regulation states or contains what the parties had declared on April 19 of this year as a result of the 8th meeting of the commissions in the statement that was published after the meeting. So, reference to the Almaty Declaration as the basic principle for the delimitation process. And it states that in the delimitation process, the sides will be governed by the Almaty Declaration. For those colleagues who wish or need to be informed in greater detail, I want to highlight that the Almaty Declaration was signed by a number of former Soviet republics, including Armenia and Azerbaijan, and that declaration contains two important provisions for the topic at stake. The first provision is this: that the Soviet Union shall cease to exist. And the second is that the countries that signed the Almaty Declaration recognize and respect each other's territorial integrity and the inviolability of the existing borders. Now, this is a very important foundation. If we were to interpret this, the relevant provision of the Almaty Declaration would mean that the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan mutually recognize each other within the territories of the relevant Soviet republics, as is currently noted in Armenia and Azerbaijan. According to the agreement, this regulation is now going through domestic procedures in Armenia and Azerbaijan, approval, and I trust that at least in Armenia we will do everything to finalize this regulation. Our government has now adopted the draft, sent it to the Constitutional Court for checking its constitutionality. The next important topic for evaluating the situation in our region and establishing durable peace is, of course, the opening of regional communications. And I hope that you are aware of the Crossroads of Peace initiative adopted by the government of Armenia. This project is about communications between Armenia and Azerbaijan, railway, roads, potential cables, gas pipelines, electricity lines, other communication channels, but also that there will be a similar development between Armenia and Turkey. Of course, the Crossroads of Peace is important for us for another reason. With this project implemented, if implemented, we will be able to connect with the Islamic Republic of Iran via railway, and understandably and obviously the relationship with Iran is very important for us. We will be able to connect by railway also with Turkey, with Europe, with Russia, and of course also Azerbaijan will be able, via the territory of Armenia, to have a rail connection with Turkey, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and of course what is also important here is the railway and road connection between Nakhichevan and the rest, the main part of Azerbaijan, via the territory of Armenia. As is clear from the project, we stand ready to provide that communication, but we must also note that currently Nakhichevan does have transport connection via the territory of Iran, via the territory of Turkey. The Autonomous Republic of Nakhichevan of Azerbaijan is connected with the outside world. We stand ready at any time to engage in the implementation of this project, including the transport communication between Nakhichevan and the main part of Azerbaijan. Moreover, for about 2 years, there's a draft government decree in or around the agenda of the Armenian government, whereby we are ready to carry out this process. Now, what is hindering this process? What's hindering this process is that apparently not all of our partners are inclined to make use of the possibility that we offer. You must have heard about this. It's often discussed the extent to which the Crossroads of Peace project is in line with or consistent with the logic of the trilateral statement of November 9, 2020, among others. This discussion has reactivated recently, and there's an attempt in that discussion to present that the November 9 trilateral statement implies that the security of these communications in the territory of Armenia shall be secured by third parties or a third country. I must say straight away that that perception has nothing to do with reality. And to make it more substantiated, let me now quote the 2020 November 9 Trilateral Statement, paragraph 9. The Republic of Armenia shall guarantee transportation, communication, security between Nakhichevan and the eastern part of Azerbaijan, and the unhindered movement of citizens and cargo in both directions. As you can see, the November 9 trilateral statement provides that in the territory of Armenia, the Republic of Armenia shall have the role of ensuring the security of communications. This is open public text, and it could not be different, because it would be illogical in the territory of a sovereign country for any other country to provide security. And more broadly, I want to tell you that by referring to the November 9 trilateral statement, some international partners are trying to present something that does not exist in the November 9 statement. For example, what November 9 trilateral statement does not contain is this. It does not say that over any territory of Armenia there will be the control of another country. The November 9, 2020 trilateral statement does not contain such a provision at all. And this is a public document, I repeat. I invite everyone to search for and to find, and once you find, we don't mind if you also inform us if you were to find something other than this in the text. But such text does not exist, I can tell you, as a person who signed this paper. What is also lacking in that statement is a provision implying that the jurisdiction of the Republic of Armenia over its sovereign territory would in any way be limited in terms of customs, borders, phytosanitary and other controls. There is no such provision, simply to speak, and it could not exist. But very importantly, what I just quote it as text that does not exist in the November 9 trilateral statement. Many people try to present as provisions of the November 9 trilateral statements. This is a new diplomatic technique which I frankly do not understand, to refer to a document and to present a provision that simply does not exist in the document. Such modus operandi is not understandable to us, and to speak directly is unacceptable to us. Instead, if we want to see what the November 9 trilateral statement does contain, paragraph 9, and there's an attempt to present paragraph 9, or to present the trilateral statement as if it's a document about connecting Nakhichevan with the main part of Azerbaijan. But the paragraph reads, all economic and transport connections in the region shall be unblocked. The linkage between Nakhichevan and the main part of Azerbaijan is an internal subparagraph of paragraph 9, whereas paragraph 9 mainly is about unblocking all economic and transport connections. Paragraph 7 of the trilateral statement provides that internally displaced persons and refugees return to the Nagorno-Karabakh territory and to the adjacent regions under the supervision of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or the Office of the UNHCR. As you can see, after November 9, 2020, when the President of the Russian Federation and the President of Azerbaijan and myself signed these documents, thereafter, not only at that time, Nagorno-Karabakh and the Armenian refugees that left Nagorno-Karabakh and the adjacent territories have not returned to Nagorno-Karabakh and the adjacent territories, but a year ago, other events unfolded, as a consequence of which Nagorno-Karabakh was fully cleansed of Armenians as a consequence of ethnic cleansing. Paragraph 8 of the 2020 November 9 trilateral statement provides that the exchange of prisoners of war, hostages and other detained persons, as well as the bodies of the deceased, shall be carried out. To date, there are Armenian prisoners of war, hostages and other detained persons who are Armenian in Azerbaijan. They have not been returned to date, and this is also a provision that is found in the November 9 trilateral statement, and as you can see, it has not been implemented. Now, I need to tell you that unfortunately no partner has any basis for accusing Armenia of failing to implement any provision of the November 9 statement. But as you can see, the Republic of Armenia and any independent and impartial observer has grounds to say that our other partners, to the signatories to the trilateral statement, have not at least fully implemented their obligations. And so, dear ladies and gentlemen, this is the logic. Crossroads of peace, delimitation process, agreed text of the peace agreement that we propose for achieving durable and lasting peace in our region. But there may and should be a question: what are the arguments counter to these claims? Regarding the crossroads of peace, I addressed the counter arguments, and now I would like to address the counter arguments to the peace process. You recently may have heard many statements or claims that the Constitution of the Republic of Armenia allegedly contains territorial demands on Azerbaijan. Now, what substantiates these claims? By those who try to substantiate it, by saying, for instance, that the preamble to the Constitution contains partial reference to the Declaration of Independence of Armenia adopted on August 23, 1990. That is, still when the Soviet Union existed.
խոսվում է
The declaration refers
1999 թվականի դեկտեմբերի 1-ի հայկական ԽՍՀ եւ Լեռնային
to a
Ղարաբաղի
joint decision of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic Supreme Council and the Nagorno-Karabakh National Council on the reunification of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic and Nagorno-Karabakh, dated December 1, 1989. This may seem like a grounded argument, but let me go to paragraph 5 of the declaration, and I apologize for going into this level of detail, but they try to engage in a broad public discussion of a topic that we should understand in full detail. The Declaration of Independence of Armenia states that the Republic of Armenia shall, for securing its security and the inviolability of borders, create forces, internal troops, state and social and public security bodies under the Supreme Council. This was adopted on August 23, 1990. In other words, the police, the troops, the security bodies shall be subordinate to the Parliament, the Supreme Council. But in 1995, when the Constitution of the Republic of Armenia was adopted, and even before that, all security agencies, law enforcement agencies in Armenia were subordinate to the President of the Republic. And after the 2015 constitutional amendments, they have been subordinate to the government. And what this means is the provisions of the Declaration of Independence are reflected in the Constitution of Armenia insofar as they are reflected literally and verbatim, which is an important principle of our legal architecture, that we need to understand laws and text of laws literally and verbatim. The Constitution of Armenia says nothing about all those claims that they try to make in reference to the Constitution of Armenia. So this, similar to the November 9 statement, is a situation where they try to attribute to the Constitution of Armenia something which is not written in the text and does not exist in the text of the Constitution of Armenia. On the contrary, paragraph 3 of Article 5 of Armenia's constitution stipulates that in case of conflict between the ratified treaties of Armenia and the laws of Armenia, the international treaty provisions shall apply. And this is another key principle. The peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, as to be ratified by the Parliament of Armenia, would mean that this agreement does not contradict the Constitution. The moment it is ratified, it becomes superior to all other potential laws, and this is another factor to be taken into consideration. However, I wish to note that reality is somewhat different. Reality is that Azerbaijan's constitution contains territorial demands towards the Republic of Armenia. Now, what substantiates this? The Constitutional Act of Azerbaijan, adopted in 1991, is the foundation of Azerbaijan's constitution, and this is stated in Azerbaijan's constitution. The Constitutional Act in turn refers to and is, according to the Constitutional Act, stemming from the declaration of creation of the first Azerbaijani Republic in 1918. So the Constitution is based on the Constitutional Act, or the State Independence Act adopted in 1991. The State Independence Act of 1991 is in turn based on the 1918 Declaration of Independence of Azerbaijan. And the Declaration of Independence of 1918 proclaims that Azerbaijan's territory shall include the eastern and southern Transcaucasia. Moreover, in 1919, at the Paris Peace Conference, and the map presented for the registration of the Democratic Republic of Azerbaijan in the League of Nations, the maps contain the Sunik and Vayot-Tor marzes of Armenia fully, as well as parts of the Ararat, Armavir, Kegarkunik, Tavush, Lori, and Shirak marzes of Armenia. In other words, all of this makes obvious that Azerbaijan's constitution does contain territorial claims on the Republic of Armenia. But it's important also to note that we're not turning this into a topic for the negotiations. We're not raising this issue because in the agreed text of the peace agreement there is a provision that reads as follows: that none of the parties may invoke the provisions of its internal legislation as justification for its failure to perform the present international agreement. In other words, we see on the one hand that Azerbaijan's constitution does contain territorial claims on the Republic of Armenia, but we're not raising that issue in order not to drive the peace process into deadlock. Also because we consider, as I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, the text of the peace agreement fully addresses this problem, and an international treaty provides that the parties may not invoke their domestic legislation as justification for failure to comply with their obligations in an international agreement. And dear colleagues, this brings me back to where I began. And I wish to reiterate that this is truly an important moment for our region, for us to take what we have agreed upon. Let me just repeat, this is agreed, and the representatives of Azerbaijan have admitted. This is really essentially 80% of the potential substance of the peace agreement. So we have Armenia and Azerbaijan together have more than a controlling share, if I may use that metaphor, a controlling package over a peace agreement. And we propose that the 13 plus 3 agreed provisions be put on the table, to sign them now, and to move on to the discussion of other questions. And I very much hope that this esteemed audience will agree there was never any agreement that addressed and solved all problems. There is no such agreement. Whatever agreement we sign with 20 articles, 30, 40, 50, 100 articles, there will still be 200, 300 potential articles that will be not addressed in that agreement. There are no countries that regulate their relationship through one agreement only, but it's important, very important, to set the foundation, or to not reject the foundation that has already been laid after our years of negotiation. And I hope that in the near future we will have a chance to sign the already agreed part of the peace agreement and to move on with the rest of the negotiations, solve the other potential issues. Honorable President of the Republic of Armenia, dear colleagues, I thank you for your attention, and I wish the best of luck Yerevan Dialogue
համաժողովին, ընդ որում ոչ միայն
International Conference,
2025-26
not just in 2024, but also in 25, 2026, and the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Phashinian, for your insightful words that have set the tone for our discussions. Your points on establishing peace and meaningful interstate relations will undoubtedly guide us as we navigate the complex issues ahead. Now I have the privilege to introduce another key individual who has been instrumental in transforming Armenia as we know it, and along with the Prime Minister, is building a 21st century global engagement of this country with the world. His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia, Ararat Mirzoyan. Honorable Minister, may I request you to take the podium.
Հայաստանի Հանրապետության մեծարգո պարոն
Honorable
նախագահ,
President
Հայաստանի Հանրապետության
of the Republic of Armenia, Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia,
մեծարգո
Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, dear ministers, members of the Parliament,
գերազանցություններ,
Excellencies, dear guests, I warmly welcome all of you
առաջին անգամ
to the Yerevan Dialogue International Conference held for the first time in the capital of the Republic of Armenia.
վարչապետը Արտենիս
The Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia already gave us a detailed presentation and overview of our peace agenda,
տարածաշրջանում ընթացող
of the processes
մանրամասները
in the region in great detail. He laid out the arguments and the counter-arguments, and I will therefore try to share
առավել ընդհանրական
a slightly different and more generic set of thoughts of mine with a view to positively, in a positive sense, provoke and generate today's and tomorrow's dialogue. Dear colleagues, as the world famous American writer of Armenian descent, William Saroyan, would say in his drama, My Heart is in the Mountains, something somewhere is wrong. Seems simple, but let's face it, this very accurate phrase fully describes the situation both here around us and in various other regions. It is of course necessary to admit that our world was never characterized by infallibility or equal protection of everyone's rights or unwavering observance of the mandatory coexistence rules for everyone, but the events of recent years in particular have significantly reinforced the truth of the thought I just quoted. Moreover, the mad rush of change and uncertainty continues as we speak, adding to the degree of unpredictability. This is long not just a theoretical or scientific claim, but a visible and tangible reality, a reality that has a direct impact both on the global level, on international relations, and on the individual level, on a large number of human destinies, the human loss and mutilated destinies that happen around in different corners of the world as a result of man-made and natural disasters are not mere statistics. They are specific human lives with names, surnames, and faces. The open and unpunished violations of international law, the deepening crises, the ongoing wars, the crimes sometimes committed against humanity testify to the actual disintegration of the world order that existed for many years and the more or less acceptable and viable rules of the game. The controversy and competition between global players further deepens the polarization and fragmentation of world politics, while various regional actors in turn challenge the world order, in turn claiming to play a greater role and shape their spheres of influence. Small states strive to navigate this turbulent ocean as safely as possible, having before them the imperative to protect and preserve their own statehood, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. Along with creating many benefits, technological progress also brings new challenges for states and peoples, from cybersecurity issues to artificial intelligence, the consequences of which are not yet fully understood or discovered, thus making it unpredictable. Hybrid threats and the deliberate spreading of disinformation add a new layer to the already complex, multi-layered international crises. As a minister of a country that has gone through and is going through democratic transformation that long seemed impossible, and is aware of the importance of valuing and maintaining this achievement and steadily moving along the democratic path of development, I must, among the existing challenges, also emphasize threats to democracy, its values and principles, and the urgent need to prove with our joint efforts that democracy can deliver tangible results, including as a guarantor of crisis resilience, stability, and development. To add a pinch of optimism to what I said, I can cite Armenia's own example, where with the mechanisms provided by democracy, such as free and adversarial, competitive elections, just 3 years ago, we were able to overcome the deep public crisis in which our society found itself, and the aftershocks of which continue to this day, one must admit. Coming back to the geopolitical panorama, we must note again that the existing international mechanisms, unfortunately, are no longer able to effectively address the existing challenges. Moreover, in the case that it's impossible to change the existing situation, we cannot avoid further deterioration of the situation, which I will not exaggerate if I say it is one of the gravest since the years of World War II. Of course, painting this picture is not intended to generate additional pessimistic or even apocalyptic feelings in this audience. On the contrary, it is my belief that the full awareness of the image is what emphasizes the imperative to stop the wrong process, to change the image, similar to the correct diagnosis of the disease which is needed for treatment to be effective. And that transformation is no theoretical judgment. It is a very real and practical necessity. And so, if we all realize that something somewhere is wrong, and that this process is leading all of us to another abyss where there will be no long-term winners, what should be the reaction of civilized humanity in this situation? Restoring the world order based on international rules and strengthening its legitimacy. This is the only way that can ensure the advancement of global security and development agendas. However, when everyone, individual states, non-state actors, international corporations live and are governed by their own truth, how does one arrive at a common denominator, common rules, and common inviolable truths? By dialogue, by engaging in dialogue, and why not? The clash of opinions and debate can create an opportunity to reach the discovery of common truths and the formulation of common rules. Will dialogue guarantee success? Not necessarily, but it is a fact that the lack of dialogue will further deepen the existing crisis. This is the approach and belief of Armenia, to continue dialogue even in the most difficult of situations, trying to achieve common rules of coexistence, to respect them, at least tolerate each other, and if possible, to cooperate in a mutually beneficial way. This is exactly the approach we have adopted, striving for durable peace in our region. I think everyone present here would agree with Martin Luther King's statement that peace is not just the absence of shooting. Stable, fair, and dignified solutions are truly needed, which requires firm political will and commitment. The Republic of Armenia, despite all the challenges and difficulties, has demonstrated and continues to demonstrate that will and that commitment. And so today, dear partners, we invite you to use the Yerevan dialogue as a platform to talk about the global challenges, a platform where I hope it will be possible to take yet another step to bring us closer to formulating common rules and shaping the future today. Allow me to finish my speech with the words of Saroyan again. In the end, today is forever. Yesterday is still today, and tomorrow is already today. I wish the first Yerevan dialogue a smooth ride, and I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Mirzoyan, for highlighting the need to restore the international rules-based order and to find common ground and dignified solutions through dialogue. These themes will indeed be at the heart of our discussions over the next 2 days. We look forward to the valuable insights that will emerge from this dialogue, shaped by the brilliant minds gathered here. And as we conclude this opening session, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister for their leadership and vision. And to all of you, our distinguished guests, thank you for being here. Armenia needs you, your ideas, your collaboration, and your commitment. Let's make this Yerevan dialogue a turning point, not just for Armenia, but for the world. Let the dialogue begin. We will take a short break as our dignitaries for this morning depart, and we will reconvene in 20 minutes.
dear participants, please take your seats.
We're going to go ahead and start. Our next panel will set the scene nicely for discussions to come, and will be kicked off by the two arguably most responsible people for turning this convening from dream to reality. Please welcome Samir Saran, President of the Observer Research Foundation, and David Karapetyan, Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia. David, can I hand it over to you?
Phew, Samir. I think we survived the official part, yeah?
We did.
Hello, my friend. I'm happy you are here in Yerevan. I know Armenians and Indians share a common trait of being always late, all the time. But over 30 years, really? What took us so long to get back together after 4 centuries of familiarity and friendship? By the way, we have a side event on academic issues discussing 400 years of friendship of Armenians and Indians. You have now harbored at the Armenian dry port, where the world's biggest democracy encounters its aspiring friend, which hand in hand connect to our friends in Asia, Europe, and transatlantic through multimodal supply chains of democratic values. Finally, we are united as Vasudhavya Kutumbakam. We can connect to our cousins in South. We can travel to our friends in the North. East and West are so close. It just takes a crossroads of peace to bring the whole family together. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we all need to start investing today to shape the tomorrow we all want. Armenia is a frequent participant of the Ryzenia dialogue, and this is how we came up with the idea to work with our friends at the Indian Observer Research Foundation to launch the Yerevan dialogue. Allow me to introduce my good friend Samir Saran, president of the Observer Research Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And I think before we take this session forward, I would like all of us to acknowledge the superhuman effort made by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia. I can see the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs here. And of course, David is like the Superman who is both the Secretary General and the head of a think tank in Armenia. He's doing both the jobs, my job and the job of the government for Armenia. So please join me in applauding David for his wonderful efforts in putting this together. We are not only very similar, but we are also in some ways the essential items that bind the world together. In this global world, there are 3 things you will find everywhere: Armenians, Indians, and potatoes. It's true. We are the quintessential global beings. And of course, the Armenians were first off the block, and globalization was possibly a byproduct of traders from Armenia who unlocked the land routes and connected the world. Of course, it was accelerated through others as well, but this is where it all began. In many ways, this is where the first iteration of globalization began. But now, there is something again that's very common about Indians and Armenians. You go to a technology company boardroom, you go to a cabinet meeting in any country of the world, and you'll have people from either the Indian origin or an Armenian origin holding important positions. I was in Hungary just a couple of weeks ago, and we had Armenia there as well. So it's incredible how the communities, as communities, we are people who go to the world in peace, in pursuit of knowledge, in pursuit of friendship, never for political expansionism, never for changing the borders, never for acquiring material wealth. It is the quintessential global ethic that now needs to be reinvented in the 21st century. So, David, I'm glad we are working together. I'm glad this dialogue has come together as a way of coming back after 4 centuries and building something new together. And let me ask you, first off, that since we have put this together, we have folks from so many countries here. What are your ambitions around the dialogue? I have mine, but let me ask you yours first.
Of course. Today's, increasingly complex world where interconnections and diversity must serve as opportunities to build bridges, where education and scientific advancement must be at the forefront of reaching the ambitious sustainable development agenda, where heritage must connect generations, cultures, and peoples. It is our utmost importance to have an international community that is truly committed to these values and goals. In order for us to withstand the challenges of globalization, in order to meet the demands of people without diminishing the ability of future generations to meet theirs, in order to change the technological advancement and digital solutions towards a common vision for the future of humanity, in order to turn our differences into our strengths, in order for the relations between various ethnic groups, nations, and countries, small and big, near and far, not to lower the level of monologues. We need dialogue, because we speak to each other, but very few listen to each other, like us. It is with this vision that the MFA decided to launch the Ryzinia dialogue with ORF, Samir. And let me ask another question to you. Since you host these conferences around the world, we see it on Instagram all the time, you're traveling here and there, what outcomes must emerge out of Yerevan dialogue? What do you think?
So David, I think everything that you have said clearly must be an objective for us. We must respond to the 4 or 5 important questions the world has posed to all of us. Technology, climate change, global governance, peace and security, human welfare, all those are fine. But I think what I would like to see coming out of the Yerevan dialogue is a Yerevan community of thinkers, a community of purpose, folks who can pick up the phone and talk to each other, folks who can knock their heads and try and find solutions that their own societies grapple with. So I think what really I would like here is for all of you to find 4 or 5 or 6 people in this group belonging to places that you don't know about, getting to know about those places, and beginning a new friendship. I think friendships out of Yerevan can really help us build a policy community that can actually achieve much of what you outlined. So I would like this conference to sow the seeds of the Yerevan community that will shape the world together, that will respond to the challenges together in friendship, in the spirit that we had last evening at the beautiful vineyard where you hosted us. I want that mood to prevail when we discuss the tougher questions as well. The world is a complex place, but we can have fun while responding to those complexities.
You know,
But David, you know, let me ask you a question. Since I have kind of listed the challenges that I think we must respond to, let me ask you your take on what could those challenges sitting in Armenia be for you, and Armenia's role in responding to these as both an international actor and a regional player.
As we found out during last years, the events that take place in one part of the year are immediately echoed in the other. The developments in other weakening the food security, increasing inequality, the pandemic, accompanied by the disruption of global supply chains, and the further exacerbated situation caused by armed conflicts in various parts of the world bring about new challenges and complexities in present-day international politics. South Caucasus, where Armenia is located, we are between Asia and Europe. We've always been at the crossroads connecting the north to south, east to west, with all political, economic, and cultural features pertinent to being a major trade and cultural highway. It has as well been a juncture where different political systems meet, where changes are born, including in the form of democratic upheaval and reform. Samir, through your interactions with diverse stakeholders, what kind of partnerships have emerged as important for the world we live in?
So David, I'm convinced that in the world we have 3 unique communities operating in silos, operating in isolation. We have the technology and innovation community that is producing outcomes for the sake of technology and innovation and wealth creation. There is a political and strategic community that is playing the chessboard again in the 21st century. You know, the 20th century chessboard has now got a 21st century avatar, and people are enjoying moving the pieces to change the maps and political equations and dynamics. So there's a second community, that's the political community. And then of course we have what I call the business community. And they are quite determined to preserve gains, to prevent newcomers from changing the status that they have benefited from, and in many ways a zero-sum approach to global trade and global connectedness. Now, I think our job as folks who are invested in the policy world is to connect these three communities. I think the track 2 dialogues, the track 2 is essentially the undergirding that connects these three different communities and gives it a moral, ethical, and a human framework around which those three must operate. We are both the checks and balances, we are also the ideas chambers. We have to actually sometimes lead the policy debate, sometimes apply brakes to it so that it doesn't run awry. And most importantly, we need to ensure that these three different communities today work together for the benefit of all of us. Let me, before I have a question to ask you, but before I turn to that, let me also confess, as someone from the research and policy community, let me take responsibility that I don't think the academic world and the track 2 world has necessarily been producing ideas like they had been in the past. I think we are justifying decisions taken by the track 1 more often than putting frameworks that track 1 is forced to take notice of. I think some of our political leaders are leading the ideas game, and the track 2, in fact, is following. So I think the track 2 needs to up its game, otherwise we are going to become irrelevant in the future. But you mentioned the birth of transitions in this geography. You know, you have two, in my time here and meeting all the wonderful people in Armenia, I think there are two intrinsic values that you treasure as people. One is democracy. And of course, so the leader of a democratic society in this part of the world. And the second, I have no hesitation in saying that you are a technology powerhouse in the making. So in that sense, how are you as track 1? Now I'm going to ask you as track 1, catalyzing, supporting and sustaining these two important attributes of Armenia, democratic leadership and technology leadership.
You know, we had a peaceful Velvet Revolution back in 2018. Since then, the government has been implementing a wide range of reforms to ensure full and unimpeded realization of civil and political rights, including rule of law, independent judiciary, campaign against corruption, strong campaign against corruption, and strengthening democratic institutions. The progress has been asserted by reports of various reputable international organizations like Freedom House, Gallup International, etc. As said, democracy is not a destination but a continuous struggle. One that not only demands the strong commitment on behalf of political leaders, but also the active participation of its citizens. Armenia's youth has been a driving force in this continuous struggle. Today, democracy is not only about ensuring the rule of law and the protection of human rights, providing for transparency and accountability, promoting good governance and sustainable development, but it has also become a very important tool for protecting national sovereignty and the strategic autonomy of states, providing for economic growth and the integration of states into the international system. As a landlocked country, with its borders from the east and the west in the blockade for the last 3 decades, with comparatively high trading costs in goods, Armenia has seen high-tech digital exports playing an important role in fostering Armenia's growth. Today, the high-tech sector is Armenia's economy, has around 6% share of the GDP, and the sector is growing every year by 20-30%. This is a field where Armenia indeed has much to offer to the world, as innovation is driven by the Armenian talented youth. And Samir, I have a last question for you. Armenia has been a frequent participant of the Voice of the Global South Summit hosted by India. How do dialogues like this contribute to evolution of the leadership of the South?
You know, I think that's a conference by itself on the Global South. But 2 short points. I think first, what is really required today is for the emerging and developing countries to take back their identity from the owners in the North and the West. I think what these dialogues first do is define what the South is in grammar and vocabulary coming out of the South. If you ask someone in the Western capitals about the global South, the terms that were used to describe the third world was corrupt, bad infrastructure, disease, malnutrition, and every other challenge that confronts humankind. That was the description of the global South coming from, it was a reductive term, it was used in a negative manner. What has happened in the last couple of years, and I think for that we must acknowledge the G20 leadership of India particularly, but also of their other southern partners, Indonesia and Brazil in this particular year, that we have reclaimed the definition of the South. South today is more about green transitions. South is about putting a digital society in place. South is about delivering a human-centered development agenda. It is about responding to climate change in a collective fashion. It is about building coalitions in a polarized world. It is about getting two G20 consensus documents when Europe cannot agree with anything with anyone. And yet the Global South was able to do it. So Global South is about being together. And I think that definition has been taken back by us. And now comes a question, who leads it? No one needs to lead it because we are a collective. No South countries are similar. We are dissimilar in our constituency, and we will have to work together as folks and agree that the future is common, the pathways to get there may be different, diversity must be celebrated, heterogeneity is a strength. We don't want one value, one cultural, one political system. Let us celebrate who we are as individual humans and as different societies. And that is the Global South. David, thank you for asking this question, but it is a conference by itself.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, as I already told some of you, I have one big request from all of you. Enjoy Armenia, enjoy Yerevan, have fun time here. We are here to discuss important things, but also we are here to chill. We are looking forward to your active engagement during the Yerevan dialogue. I want to thank Samir for helping organizing this event. I want to thank everyone who helped organizing everything here you can see, starting from the technical staff to the volunteers, to our colleagues that had hard nights and hard days these recent weeks. I want to thank our sponsors for helping us to bring this event to you, and hope once again you enjoy Yerevan, enjoy your time here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that was a very apt tone setter for the rest of the day. We're going to play a little bit of catch up, so we'll take only a 10-minute break now and reconvene at 12 noon sharp to hear the next panel.